December 6, 1921. History is made. Canada's first female Member of Parliament is elected. Agnes Macphail was born in Grey County, Ontario, to a farming family, a circumstance to which she owed the start of her political career. Trained as a teacher, Macphail taught in rural schools in Alberta and Ontario. She was first introduced to politics through the United Farmers of Ontario, a young political party that was gaining momentum. She decided to run for election in 1921. It was the first year the majority of women would be able to vote federally. It was also the first time women could be elected. The journey to the House of Commons was to be a long one for Macphail. She faced opposition to her candidacy from her own party. Even her parents felt uncomfortable. One newspaper of the time quoted a farmer who said, "What, are there no men left?" The party reacted by asking Macphail to resign, a request she refused. She campaigned relentlessly. She focused on farm and labor issues. Articulate and passionate, she gained popularity. She was often forced to trek through muddy farmland. Her car frequently broke down. Yet she prevailed. The farmers' vote sent her to the House of Commons. She became Canada's first female Member of Parliament. It was a poignant moment in Canadian political history. And yet, the national paper commemorated the event by speculating on how she would affect the House dress code. It was clear from this reception that her career as an MP was going to be as difficult as her campaign had been. When she finally reported to the House in March of 1922, she was asked if she was lost and offered an escort to the spectators' gallery. A bouquet of roses left on her desk turned out to be the payoff for a lost bet. Macphail acknowledged the disappointment, saying, "These ironical roses were emblematic of my reception to a house hitherto sacred to me." But Macphail was a woman of determination and would not be discouraged. She soon became renowned for her sharp one-liners. One newspaper recorded an incident where she was berated by a heckler who repeatedly interrupted her. He finally told her to get a husband. Macphail replied, "How do I know he wouldn't turn out like you?" When she was not dealing with hecklers, Macphail was kept busy advocating for farmers' rights, prison reforms, and women's suffrage issues. Canada's conscription policy of 1917 had taken a serious toll on the farming communities. Farmers had opposed the war and conscription because it took away able-bodied laborers and never replaced them. Macphail continually voiced the farmers' concerns. She also opposed the war because of her passionate belief in world peace. She strongly urged Canada to disarm and reduce military spending. Her passion led to her active involvement in the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, a move that gave her the opportunity to become the first woman to represent Canada in the League of Nations. Back home in Canada, she continued to fight for the disadvantaged and underprivileged. One of her most enduring endeavors was her campaign for penitentiary reform. With the increase in prison populations, Macphail began a harder push for the humane treatment of inmates. At the time, young offenders were incarcerated in the same prisons as adult criminals. She wanted to change this. Macphail approached the question of prison reform with the same personal touch she had given her campaign. When visiting the Kingston Penitentiary, she was told that ladies were not allowed inside the prison. She replied simply, "I'm not a lady. I'm an MP." As a result of her campaigning, a Royal Commission on Prison Reform was formed. In 1938, the commission found a number of defects in the penitentiary system and implemented reforms after the Second World War. Macphail's reform campaign inspired the founding of the Elizabeth Fry Society of Canada. It worked on issues affecting women and girls in the justice system. Macphail also tackled issues of pensions for seniors, pay equity for women, and advocated religious and ethnic tolerance. Yet, for all her hard work, Macphail remained the object of criticism. Newspapers continued to poke fun at her tailored dresses, horn-rimmed glasses, and even her shoes. She was described as mannish and as a schoolmarm spinster. Early on in her career, one national newspaper headline read, "Only woman MP is very lonely." The paper quoted her as saying, "If there were another woman in the House, I would feel that I could leave the chamber without everyone noticing." March 1940. After 19 years, Macphail lost her seat in the House. A blizzard kept her constituents from voting. 3 years later, Macphail re-entered the political arena. This time she was elected to the Ontario legislature. She was one of the first 2 women there. In 1951, Macphail retired from public life. Her health had begun to deteriorate. She died of a heart attack in 1954. She was 63. At the time of her death, she was being considered for appointment to the Canadian Senate. Former Canadian Prime Minister John Diefenbaker said of her, "Canada produced 5 great politicians. Agnes Macphail was one of them."